Hey everybody, and yeah, I know, I'm really behind the times on this one, and so let's just kind of get right into it. This is going to be my kind of wrap up for this season 3 of Supergirl. Schedule-wise, this year has not been kind to my Supergirl reviews. I am sorry about that. A lot of what's going on here is just the simple fact that I am taking online college classes. That tends to eat up a nice chunk of my free time. And of course, I have all these other shows that I'm reviewing. So at the end of the day, there's always something that's going to be left holding the bag. And more often than not, that was Supergirl. And that kind of feeds into one thing I want to talk about before I get into this video here, is that I'm not quite sure that I'm going to be keeping Supergirl on the docket for the next season's round of reviews. Of course, stuff like Flash and Arrow are going to stay on there. I'm still making up my mind about Legends of Tomorrow, but I am trying to wrap up some of these college classes that I'm taking before the fall TV season starts. I'm trying to knock out 6 this year. I'm almost finished with my third one. I was able to get it done in a pretty good amount of time. I started taking these classes about 5 months ago, so 3 classes in 5 months is, as you can imagine, even if it is stuff that's online, kind of intense. Along with, I also have a full-time job, and I have my own life, and things I need to do, things I want to do, and of course, I need some time to relax here and there, work on my other side projects and whatnot. But anyway, if I don't know when I'm going to make the final decisions on the upcoming review docket. We'll see what happens. Anyway, let's just kind of wrap this season up. And all in all, I just wasn't feeling it this season with Supergirl. And I think that was a big part of it. With Arrow and Flash, which again also had their own scheduling problems, I was definitely a lot more interested in what was happening. Like, for example, the big villain of the season was Rain, a character I'm not really familiar with from the comics, and I just really wasn't that invested in her or Sam as characters. They just were not super interesting to me. I mean, they definitely had their moments, particularly Rain. It was like, wow, like, Rain is no joke. She is not somebody to take lightly. But those were just a little few and far between, and it just, as I've repeatedly said, it really kind of felt like this season just went on too long. I mean, I have a feeling if they pared things down by a few episodes, maybe you had like a 16 episode season instead of as long as we did, then things could have been a lot tighter, and there would have just been a lot less padding. So, yeah. That said, though, so yeah, Rain. I mean, the final battle with her was well done, and her basically kind of getting the ghost treatment. Like if you've ever seen the movie Ghost at the end, what happened there? Very similar. That was cool. I thought that was nicely done. Um, but there was other stuff like Lena, like where she is right now. Okay, things between her and Supergirl are kind of tense. That's potentially interesting. Kind of felt like maybe they were being a little too buddy-buddy, and now here the pendulum has sort of swung in the opposite direction quite a bit this season, and now they're kind of at least civil with each other, so again, potential interesting things there. Jimmy outing himself as Guardian, that's also potentially quite interesting, something we've not really seen from a character like Jimmy, um, or really from Guardian, and the idea of the superhero who chooses to publicly reveal their identity and what that means. That's potentially really great story fodder. And never mind the fact that the cops are probably going to want to have a word with Jimmy because it's not exactly to be legal to be a vigilante. Superman and Supergirl enjoy the tacit approval of the authorities. In fact, I remember there was a comic, that I read years ago, where it was actually explicitly mentioned that Superman was like had been officially deputized as a law enforcement officer by the mayor's office of Metropolis, meaning that him like arresting somebody or engineering that was totally legal, which I thought was a very nice touch. There was another one. I can't quite remember what it was. It was like a three-part Green Arrow, Green Lantern, something else crossover written by Grant Morrison, where he like actually mentioned like the specific constitutional amendment that allowed superheroes to give testimony under oath without revealing their secret identities. I wish for the life of me I could remember what that was. Um, I can't. I really can't remember what it was. But yeah, that's going to be something interesting for Jimmy to do. And in fact, I think it's probably the most interesting thing that he's had going on in quite a long time. Him and his relationship with Lena never really quite worked with me. It'll also be kind of interesting to see if that whole situation you talked about earlier in the season, where it's sort of like, hey, I'm a black guy, look at the way society treats me. Well, yeah, what's going to happen here? This person who's a fairly high-profile person, I mean, he's the dude who's in charge of Catco, has been revealed to be a vigilante. The system's probably going to have something to say about that. And, it's probably wouldn't be surprising if they were going to be harsher on him than, to put it bluntly, a white person who was going around doing this sort of thing. We'll have to wait and see. Also intriguing was the whole thing. It's like, oh, Supergirl's mom is alive. And the whole Argo thing. Well, okay, Argo is a huge, huge part of Supergirl lore. I mean, it's something that's very strongly connected to her personally. Superman is more affiliated with the bottle city of Kandor. So them finally bringing that in, that's like a great piece of Supergirl lore that they can now sort of play around with. And, I certainly can't complain about having Allura recast as being Erica Durance. Was never that huge on Smallville's interpretation of Lois Lane, but that was never a knock against Erica Durance herself. Believe you me, my problems with Smallville was almost never with the actors. It was basically always, always, always with the writers. And oh my God, were there times when I wanted to tear my hair out over the writing on Smallville, particularly in the later seasons. Well, no, not really in the later seasons, really more the mid-seasons. The show actually got quite a bit better towards the finale. So it started off strong. The middle, particularly season 6, was just absolutely god-awful. And then the final seasons got quite a bit better. And they had a really great series finale. Like the conversation between Clark and Lex Luthor during that season finale on Smallville. That's like one of my all-time great Superman Lex Luthor moments. Probably my second favorite, actually. Anyway, going on. Sad to see Myron go, but I think they really sent him out in a nice way. Sorry to see Carl Lumbly go, but again, he had a great time here on the show, and I am kind of intrigued by what they're going to be doing with John next season. Where exactly is he going to go with where he is right now? One thing that also did not work for me, however, was Alex. Like, okay, her being the new head of the DEO. All right, that makes perfect sense. The whole thing about her talking about, wanting a kid, oh man, I'm sorry, but that just immediately made me start wanting to scream like, oh my God, please don't go there. This is going to be painfully boring. And, children on dramas are very difficult to do and do well. William over on Arrow, for example, is not a particularly interesting character. Because one of the things you have when you bring in kids and babies is like, well, where is the baby? Who is taking care of the baby? where's the kid, who's watching the kid, and constantly having to check that little box is annoying. And if you ignore that too much, it just makes your characters seem like horrible parents. And again, the way they wrote that scene where Alex was talking about wanting a kid, oh my god, that just did not work for me. That was, I think, one of the weakest moments of writing this season. I just was just sort of like, oh my god, I don't want to be listening to this. And please understand, I'm not trying to be discriminatory here in any way, shape, or form towards gay people being parents or anything like that. I'm totally supportive of that. It's in this particular situation, I thought the writing was not good, and that this does not sound to me like something that is going to be interesting for them to deal with next season. Now, if the show comes around and proves me wrong, then you know what? I will give the show all the props in the world. I am perfectly okay. I hope that writers and shows will prove me wrong if I have reservations about something. I try to be an optimist. And on the times when they do that, I am delighted. But I I've studied storytelling, as unofficially, just kind of on my own, for quite a while now, and how things work, and what tends to work well in dramas and various other types of stories, and what tends not to. So my purely amateur opinion on this is, okay, if you're going to go there, you better have something really, really great up your sleeve. Otherwise, this could end up being a real anchor. But we'll have to see. Let's see. Mon-El, yeah, that was kind of an interesting thing. He sort of goes on this sort of little thing to figure out, well, do I want to try and work things out with Kara? Am I really that into my marriage with Imra? And then ultimately it's sort of like, oh, it's neither. And then he goes back to the future. Oh, well, that kind of sucks for him. Also, man, just not feeling that beard. Not feeling that beard at all. The whole thing with Win, that was cool. I kind of like that. The idea of yeah, we're gonna bring this super intelligent guy from the past to the future to help us out, but he's gonna need time naturally to sort of get up because one way or another, it's still been 1,000 years and technology has radically changed. And the idea that this has to happen because of oh, the Legion came back and helped them defeat Rain and all this bad stuff didn't happen, but oh, Brainiac. And this is interesting because Brainiac is usually more affiliated with Superman. Yeah, big surprise there. But the idea that Supergirl might be going toe-to-toe at some point with Brainiac next season, well, that's potentially extremely interesting. Brainiac is one of Superman's all-time greatest foes. He's one of the most powerful villains in the entire DC universe. He's pretty. I like Brainiac quite a bit. It'd be interesting to sort of see what kind of interpretation of him the show might have to offer, especially if you're familiar with some of the details of what's going on Krypton. But it's not as if hasn't been more than one interpretation of Brainiac over the years. So sure, why not, right? And yeah, also from what we've been hearing, they're going to be having Brainiac 5 be a regular on the show next season because Wynn's going to be stepping down a little bit. And of course, if you're familiar with your Supergirl lore, she and Brainiac 5 have quite a bit of history together. He's sort of one of her go-to romantic interests, which is one of those things that never really quite clicked with me. But then again, I generally tend to... I mean, I like Brainiac 5. He's a very enjoyable character. Particularly remember Mark Waid's run on Legion of Superheroes and really enjoying his interactions with Dream Girl. And that was the actual character's name, who is this sort of very Luna Lovegood-esque member of the Legion. But their relationship, as it went over time, really became something special and one of the highlights of the story for me. And I do like the guy that they have playing Brainiac. They seem to have toned down the fact that Brainiac 5 acts like an enormous dick a lot of the time. Here he's generally a pretty decent guy. He can be a little condescending sometimes, but he doesn't come across like an ass. Yeah, and I'm fine with that. We kind of had that more abrasive personality from the early days with Mon-El, so I don't think they would be really repeating that too much. And you would think that after he'd grown and changed so much, Mon-El would have really put some effort into, like, dude, we gotta talk manners. So, let's see. I think that covers everything I had to say about this season. So again, guys, sorry for the schedule problems. But a lot of it was just, I'm busy these days. Real life has to always come first. And a large part of it was just that there were so many things this season that I just wasn't feeling. I was not enjoying Supergirl as much as I had in the past. Like, I was really, really into the show, especially during that first season. And, when you're not so into a show, the drive to go out there and make the video and talk about it goes down. That's just kind of how it goes. So guys, I'm going to call here. Until next time, take care and have a good one.